Welcome everybody to M365 UK. It's our January edition, 20th one. So Happy New Year to all the members, existing as well as the new members who's joined. So feel free to ask questions in the chat window. It's the usual Teams meeting that we have. And my name is Chirag Patel. So I'm the organizer here in the M365 UK. And so today we have two great speakers with us, Joe Griffin and Christian Buckley from US. And so we got great sessions by them. So we got the first session, which is going to be all about Power Platform for pro developers. So it's not always about citizen developers. And then we got a session from Christian after our break, which usually happens here around 5 o'clock time in the UK. So that session's all about Microsoft Teams productivity tips. So 20 of them, but I'm sure there's more than that. So always an exciting session from Christian around that as well. So looking forward to both the sessions. And so for those of you who are not aware, Chirag Patel. I live and work in London, UK. techchirag.com is the best way to get to me. Work with Patel Consulting, delivering technical services around collaboration, information management, and productivity solutions. Also tend to operate as a trainer as well as an architect around. So work with various core partners in the UK and generally doing deployments and migrations around Microsoft 365. Historically, albeit with SharePoint, and these days tends to be a mixed bag of all the services with the recent project around the divestment of Microsoft 365 services. So feel free to connect with me, and if you have any questions or anything that I can help out, then I can reach that out to you, and so that would be great for that. Just so that for the new members especially, we tend to run M365 UK on a monthly basis around about middle of the month. January is always a bit of a special one, so hence we're running just end of this month now. But usual channels, M365 UK is the hashtag and the Twitter handle. Meetup.com/M365 UK is the site to register and stay tuned for all the events and any messages or conversations you may wish to have, as well as on LinkedIn. So we have an event coming up next month now, in probably a couple of weeks, with Nikki Chappell and Anup Tati. Again, we're going to have great sessions from them around the Office 365 groups or M365 groups now. As well as the development topic around Viva Connections, adaptive card extensions. So looking forward to those next month. But in the meantime, if you have any sessions or topics or even a story around your experiences, whatever you do, it doesn't have to be a full 50 minutes, it can be half an hour or 20 minutes, then I would urge you to submit your thoughts or ideas on the session. And I'll put these links out in the chat window soon. So I'd love to hear from you. And if you need any help or support around that, then I'm willing to give that to you as well. So it would be lovely to have you at M365 UK. Okay, so we're going to kick off with Joe Griffin now. And so just to kind of give you an idea, because obviously, certainly from who I was working with, Power Platform has been around for 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, I think. So there's a lot going on, a lot of changes, everything else, but it's obviously a vast field of working with that platform systems around the apps and workflows and even Power BI. But there's obviously a lot more than that, and so Joe is going to basically talk to us about that in terms of what's in it for, I guess, developers as well as other areas of Microsoft Cloud. And so looking forward to this one. It's going to be a as he says, a lightning talk and fast and furious, if you like. So with that, I'll hand over to Joe, to you, and take it away.
Brilliant.
And welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Right. Okay. So yeah. So today I'm very pleased to be able to speak to you a bit more about the Power Platform and looking at it really specifically from a pro developer's angle, and why, if maybe you're doing anything to do with maybe .NET, anything to do with Azure, maybe even anything to do with sort of maybe Microsoft 365 development work, why you might just want to take a look at the Power Platform. So we'll just give you a bit of an overview first in terms of, okay, what, when it comes to what we do with the Power Platform, typically we're looking to build out a business application of some shape or format. So we'll look at some of the key challenges that we may typically face, what we may have faced in the past when we didn't have these tools at our disposal. We'll then move on and just give you a bit of a whistle-stop overview of, okay, what is the Power Platform? It might be maybe that you only got a sort of very high-level awareness of it. It could be maybe you know it in and out. So we'll try and just very quickly just give you a summary of everything involved. We'll then move on and look at some of the ways in which we can extend out the Power Platform, the ways in which we can start to bring in what we term this ProCode extensibility or fusion development into the Power Platform, and why a pro developer might want to consider using aspects of the Power Platform for their particular project. We'll then have a bit of a demo just to show you some of the things that we can actually get cooking relatively quickly. So the stuff that we're going to show you was put together probably in the space of about 2 hours by myself earlier this week. So hopefully that gives you an indication just how quickly you can actually do some pretty interesting things with the Power Platform. And hopefully at the end we'll have some time for some Q&A. So a little bit about me on the slide here. So hello, my name is Joe Griffin. I'm managing director of a fairly small gold partner based in the northwest of the UK, Solar Cloud Solutions. So we do everything from sort of managed services through to consultancy and training. Typically, we focus a lot on the business application side of things and Azure side of things. And in terms of the where my skill sets and where my experience is, that's where it pretty much sort of resides. I'm a bit of a badgeaholic, you may call me. So quite a lot of certifications across the various different sort of Power Platform, Dynamics 365, Azure type stuff as well. I do need to do a couple of maybe a Teams exam, or maybe something to do with managing M365 at some point, fingers crossed. I'm involved with the user group of Manchester for D365 and Power Platform. We've got our next event tomorrow if anybody's interested in coming along. And as I say, I tend to work quite technically with these various different platforms, getting involved from a .NET standpoint. Do like to do a bit of SQL every now and again. I mean, who doesn't really? It's a nice little treat at the end of the week sometimes. And I work with a variety of different industry types, print, direct mail, energy utilities, construction, managed services, everything from sort of companies with, just a handful of employees right through to sort of global sort of companies. So quite a good mix. And I like to dip my toe into quite a few different areas, as you can gather. So feel free to connect with me after this talk. My LinkedIn profile name and Twitter name are on there. Be happy to connect and to chat about anything to do with Power Platform or Dynamics 365. Okay, so when, as an organization, we're looking to set up a business application of some shape or format, maybe we're looking to migrate away from some Excel-based spreadsheets. Maybe we've got a very legacy application, maybe like an Access-based application, or even something like a Fox Pro application, which a client of ours very recently was still using, which to my horror, and all of these different applications, we may want to look at trying to sort of move them forward into the cloud and try and modernize them to a certain extent. But we've got a number of challenges that will typically emerge as part of this. Business expectations plays a big role. What can we actually deliver to the organization in what time scales? How can we be as efficient as possible and ensure that we're hopefully, generating a minimum viable product as quickly as possible? It could be that many of our legacy systems or maybe paper-based processes are very complicated. So how do we map those out in a really clean and effective way so they could be followed quite easily in the cloud? We've already talked about the challenge with legacy systems. Often these may be very deep rooted in the organization. This old Fox Pro application that's sitting on Windows Server 2003 in the back office. If you switch that off overnight, then we're going to have big problems. So how do we start to actually try and encourage or guide an organization to move away? Security compliance becomes a big consideration for larger companies, or perhaps even for any companies of any size. How can we make sure that the data that we are storing for our customers is being handled in the most secure way, particularly if we're moving on to some form of public cloud provider? What assurances have we got that our data is being looked after, and we're not going to fall foul and end up in the Daily Mail next week because of some data breach or something like that? Time and resource constraints become very pressing. When we're building any form of IT solution, if we've got a dependency on a technical resource of some kind, that's going to cause us some potential constraints. Particularly if we are maybe looking at legacy technologies as well. It could be that maybe we needing to get in very specialized resources. Maybe we've only got 2 or 3 Fox Pro developers left in the UK, so that really constrains if we do need to make changes and things like that to our particular application. Or even indeed if we've maybe built a bespoke one, again, we've maybe got a dependency on a .NET developer, a Java developer, whoever it may be. And ultimately as well, when any IT project, and we probably see this a lot in our day-to-day work, is how do we get this nice partnership going? How can we actually deliver value for the end organization? How can we ensure that we're keeping IT happy as well, in terms of not allowing us, ensuring that our solution is secure, ensuring that it meets certain criteria, whilst making sure that we can, meet the demands of the business and ensure that we've got that good relationship going. So all of these will typically be challenges that emerge as part of building any type of different application. And some of the key facts that we tend to find when it comes to building an app of any kind, the cost of this can often, we think, start quite small but balloon very quickly. So we're talking, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars or pounds, to build a single app within an organization. As part of that, the adoption of what we term these different sort of low-code platforms still sits at around about sort of 22%. That will probably rise over time. And typically what we find is that, by the end of 2024, which is only just 2 years away, we're going to see a massive move towards using these low-code tools as our primary application development platforms. So what does this mean for our traditional developers? Is it time to just retire? Are we sort of in the scrap heap type things? Well, maybe not. Maybe there's ways in which we can sort of meet this challenge head on. We can still do the nice things that we like to do as developers. Writing nice code, doing fun, funky things. All that sort of stuff. Maybe we can still do that whilst also embracing these low-code application platforms. So this is where the Power Platform comes into frame, and this is Microsoft's sort of answer to sort of addressing the needs of organizations looking to build a business application solution of some shape or format, in the fastest way possible, and as well to encourage people within the organization to actually pick up these tools themselves and actually go off and start building something. So wouldn't it be great if we could actually provide a mechanism for our subject matter experts in the organization to actually go off, build a app, build a dashboard, build a workflow of some kind that maybe automates some of their key steps that they do day in, day out. All of this and more we can potentially put into the hands of our end users. So what we start to get with the Power Platform is a series of different applications that we can sort of leverage. It's a bit like sort of just going off to the sort of the kitchen shelf. We can just maybe take a little bit of a Power App over here, maybe sprinkle on a bit of Power BI just to maybe spice things up, because who doesn't like Power BI at the end of the day? And around that, we can start to benefit and leverage from other capabilities, such as a very secure cloud-based database, a variety of different data connectors, and also AI-based capability, which is included native in the platform. And beyond that, we can then look at options to then maybe go a little bit further by bringing a bit of Azure into the mix. So to break it down in a bit more detail then, so Power BI, as I hope most of you know, this is our go-to tool for any form of, when we're trying to do any form of visualization or sort of analysis of data in an organization. The main benefit that we've got with Power BI is that it's incredibly easy to bring in data from a variety of different sources in the organization. So whether we're still working with CSVs or whether we're working with the latest and greatest sort of SaaS software product from either Microsoft or maybe from a competitor product, we can hopefully use Power BI to bring our data in. We can build out these reports that can be consumed on the desktop, in the mobile, or maybe in our browser. And we can hopefully start to build a really effective reporting solution that's going to suit our particular needs. And Power BI is a very easy sell for many people. As soon as you start to demo Power BI to anyone in the organization, you can sort of see a little glint in the back of their eye. They get quite excited. If you start telling them that it can export easily into Excel, then you've sold it at that point, because who doesn't like a solution that gets them using Excel in some shape or format? So when it comes to Power BI, data is sort of king. So we need some sort of mechanism to be able to get data and be able to allow users to work with data. And this is where our Power Apps come into the equation. So we can use these to build out a variety of different, maybe mobile, tablet or desktop based applications that can suit our particular needs. We've got two types of Power Apps within the Power Platform. We've got what we call our Canvas apps. These would be most suitable for if maybe wanting to connect to maybe a SharePoint list, maybe SQL Server or some other form external system, and maybe we want to run this application as part of maybe a mobile or tablet device. Second of all, we then got our model-driven Power Apps, and these would be most suitable for if we've maybe got we want to build an application very rapidly, and we want to have what we term these sort of data-driven applications that feed in very nicely with Microsoft Dataverse, which is what we'll return to in a few moments. But ultimately, it's all about making it as easy to build an application as it is to build this PowerPoint that I'm showing you today. Nice drag and drop interfaces. We've got a formula language in there known as PowerFX. So anybody who's handy with writing Excel formulas can very quickly and easily embrace this and start using this as a solution. And we can start to bring in additional capabilities. So, for example, we've got a series of different artificial intelligence sort of modules and models that we can bring in very easily via AI Builder. So if we want to have it so that, for example, our particular application can scan a business card and extract out details from there. Maybe when we're at the next sort of in-person event, we can sort of scan business cards as we're receiving them and get them into our CRM system. These are the type of things that AI Builder can do for us. And all of this will work very nicely and easily with our different sort of Power Apps that we build. Now, typically, we'll want to automate a lot of the work that we're doing as an organization. We don't want to be necessarily subjecting ourselves or maybe our colleagues to doing the same old sort of manual sort of process day in, day out and stuff like that. It's not a good use of anybody's time, frankly. So with Power Automate, what we can potentially do is address these scenarios from anything from sort of maybe simple sort of personal productivity sort of hacks, so maybe just going off into our email inbox and maybe downloading all the attachments in there, right through to maybe connecting together our various different sort of systems using the wide variety of different connectors available to us. Now, if this interface looks somewhat familiar, if you maybe have some experience on the Azure side and you're wondering, hey, this is just logic apps, isn't it? Well, yes, you are right. So effectively, Power Automate flows use logic apps under the hood. You've got some important differences and benefits that Power Automate flows bring into us, particularly when it comes to working with Microsoft Dataverse. You've got some additional enhanced options there that can help you out. In addition as well, Power Automate includes a very powerful approval engine that we can leverage. So if as an organization we're wanting to look at kicking off various different approval type processes, and we don't have to go through and build all this out ourselves, then we can leverage what we got within Power Automate to start to implement that for us, and hopefully spend less time on actually building our solution and get something into the hands of the business a lot faster. And ultimately, a lot of what we can do with Power Automate Flow will also can also be extended out to the on-premise as well. So we've got full support, for example, as part of things like the on-premise gateway. So even if our SQL Server database is nicely tucked away on-premise, hidden behind all manner of different firewalls and different sort of network barriers, we can very quickly, easily, and securely get it exposed out into the Power Platform, and we can actually access it from Flow with relative ease. Now, chatbots are quite sort of popular thing these days. In the past, you would typically need to get a developer involved to build this out. We would need to look at spinning up some stuff in Azure and basically authoring out a chatbot using some of the capabilities out there, maybe also using some C# sort of .NET languages and stuff like that. These days, what we can do instead is actually use the Power Platform and build out these chatbots ourselves using a sort of a visual designer type window that we can see on the slide on here. And again, this is really targeted towards those maybe our subject matter experts in our organization, giving them the ability to be able to create these chatbots with ease. We can look to consume these from a variety of different sources. So we could maybe embed a chatbot within Microsoft Teams so that our internal colleagues can ask questions against it. We can maybe even take it a bit further, embed it onto our actual website. We can maybe look to add it into Facebook. And finally, as well, we can also look to integrate this with our sort of omni-channel Dynamics 365 omni-channel solution, so that maybe we can have it so that cases or chat sessions which the chatbot is interacting with can be very quickly and easily escalated to an actual human agent to deal with. And so really it becomes very easy for us to build out a chatbot. In fact, if you gave me an FAQ page on a website, and a brief description of some functionality, I could probably have a working chatbot in place for you within probably a few hours based on that. So there's some really interesting capability on here, and this is going to be improving and going to be probably more visible, particularly on Teams over time as well. I believe today we can in fact create our virtual chatbots in Teams, and that's included as part of our subscription as well, which is quite nice. So what we can do with Dataverse is that we can put our data to work instead of walk, and we don't want to cook it, unfortunately. So apologies for that typo up there. But yeah, Dataverse effectively gives us our secure relational database in the Power Platform. Effectively, what we've got here is just a managed SQL Server database that we can use. It's not going to have all the same capabilities that we've got, but certainly we're going to be able to do things such as create different sort of tables. We're going to be able to create columns for our tables. It handles a lot of the difficult things for us, so it can very quickly and easily, for example, build out views for our data. We can build out forms. We can incorporate features such as maybe business process flows. We've got the ability to be able to implement simple or complex logic, via business rules or maybe workflows. And we can ultimately extend out. We've got a very rich and powerful SDK that we can use as part of this as well. Now, it's not going to have all the same capabilities as SQL. We can't, for example, go in and actually start to write DDL or alter things in there, from sort of SQL Server Management Studio. What we have now got these days is the ability to be able to connect up to our Dataverse environment through a SQL-based endpoint, and we can effectively issue SQL queries against it as if it was a normal SQL server. And in addition as well, we've got direct query capability as part of that, which is really nice. So if we're maybe got an existing Excel-based solution, if maybe we're using a SharePoint list-based solution and we want to have a bit more security, want to manage our data in a much more effective way, then looking at Dataverse as a first step could potentially be suitable for your scenario. So taken together then, or taken maybe individually, we can start to build out a variety of different sort of solutions, and we start to see some real benefits with the Power Platform when we mix and match. So, for example, if we can look to create a Canvas app, embed in some visuals from Power BI, and maybe have several different Power Automate flows behind the scenes that we can maybe execute for more complex actions, we can start to do some really interesting things. There's nothing stopping us from just using one part of the Power Platform, but really we're encouraged as much as possible to actually go in and experiment further. And we can start to do some pretty interesting, amazing things if we put our minds to it. Stuff that maybe for a developer, would take many sort of months, if not maybe years, to sort of replicate and build out. So really, we can start to focus our attention on the more sort of difficult and more harder to reach requirements, and effectively a lot of what we would typically do when building a business application becomes really nicely low-hanging fruit that's very easy for us to implement and start building out. So to help us with this as developers, we've got a variety of different ways in which we can come in and actually amplify the platform further. So we can extend out very easily into a variety of different services, whether that's Microsoft Azure, whether it's into Azure DevOps. We've got native support for a variety of different Azure-based services. We can do things like, for example, export out our Dataverse data into an Azure Data Lake Gen 2 storage location. From there, we can then hook that up to Synapse Analytics and start to do some big data or data warehousing over our solution. A lot of this becomes very sort of trivial to set up. So as long as we have chosen the right combination of Azure services, we can start to implement this very quickly and easily. And typically, when we're talking about extending out the Power Platform, Azure will be typically the first location that we go to, and certainly will give us a nice, easy route to being able to extend out our solution further. Now, application lifecycle management forms a huge part of indeed any IT solution, but in particular for the Power Platform, it becomes a very key concern. We want to be in the position so that we can, deploy our solutions in the most effective manner. We can deploy predictably. We can automate where possible, so that we're not, spending yet another, Friday night at midnight, trying for the umpteenth time to get something pushed out into production. We can start to do things like that. We can start to keep internal IT teams happy by sort of saying, okay, well, we've actually got a solution here that works very nicely, and we can handle things such as, our change requests. We can push things out in a structured manner using this. So what we get with the Power Platform, is a series of out-of-the-box ALM capabilities that we can leverage manually. So we can work with, for example, solutions to be able to manage our components. We can push these out into different environments with ease. And then if we're feeling particularly clever, we can then go into Azure DevOps. We've got a series of different build tasks that we can implement as part of that, and we can look to actually automate all aspects of this. Even to the point where we're sort of maybe doing things like running our different unit tests. We can also do UI-based testing as well. So using Selenium, for example, we can actually go in, we can actually type out the steps that our users do in a particular app. We can then run that as part of an automated test on DevOps, so we can always make sure that all of the steps our users do work end to end and everything's been automated. Automate all the things. This is what we can start to do, and this is what you should be doing if you're using the Power Platform with scale. These sort of capabilities you can start to leverage. And hopefully there'll be ones that developers in the organization will be very keen to get involved in, and will have some expertise and some capability to be able to start building out for us. Now, you would have, perhaps maybe 10, 15 years ago, Microsoft of old, you would have maybe expected that, okay, well, this Power Platform is going to be locked down. It's going to be, pure MS only. These days we're in a bigger and better world, and the main way we can sort of demonstrate this is just by looking at the breadth of different connectors we've got for the Power Platform. So this covers all of the sort of core Microsoft applications that we'd expect. Everything from maybe Exchange Online through to maybe Azure SQL, right through to third-party products as well. So even potentially competitor products as well we can integrate in. So Salesforce, for example, we can maybe create a Canvas app, a Power Automate flow that connects up to Salesforce, and just completely ignore Dynamics 365 Sales if you wanted to. Not that I'm saying you should do that. So a lot of different connectors in here that we can use as developers as well. What we can look to do is actually extend this out further. So if we, for example, have got our own maybe SaaS product that we're selling, we maybe got our own internal API that we want to expose out within the Power Platform, then we as developers can go in and very easily build out these as connectors. We can import in maybe a Postman collection or an open API definition, and from there we can then make our connector available to the wider organization and empower our users in the organization to be able to work with these more complicated APIs using sort of common action steps and things like that. So the numbers growing all the time. You've got well over 350 plus now, if not more, different connectors available to us. Certainly there will be a connector for you in there somewhere, and if not, you can very easily build your own if you needed to. So I mentioned already Azure extensibility built in, and this is really one of the main benefits and one of the main ways in which we as developers would look to extend out the platform. So typically we may want to do things such as maybe calling out maybe an Azure function. We can do things like posting out the entire transaction from a Dataverse action, maybe a create or an update, send that out into an Azure function or to a service bus location. We can look to extend out into Azure Data Lake, extend out into the other data foundation services like Azure SQL or Synapse, previously known as SQL Data Warehouse. A lot we can do very easily, and as I mentioned, Azure will be our sort of best first destination to go to if we're looking to extend out our Power Platform solution. It's going to make our lives a lot easier. And these days, we're seeing a lot of investments as well in terms of allowing that extensibility to sort of not only from a developer standpoint, but also from an admin standpoint as well. So, for example, if we're maybe just a little bit unsure about the Power Platform initially, we just want to test it out. What we can do is we can actually tie our consumption of a Canvas app to an Azure-based subscription, and that subscription will then bill us for what we're using. So it becomes very easy for us just to dip our toe in and for us to be able to, also account for situations where maybe we're using more than we expected. We can tie in an Azure subscription and we're covered then for any overages that may occur. So, typically, we may be coming at the Power Platform from a .NET standpoint, but it's not a real sort of strict requirement as part of this. what we've got as part of the platform is, numerous different sort of REST-based APIs. For Dataverse in particular, we've got an OData version 4 compliant endpoint. So, regardless of which technology background you come from, it's going to be very easy for us to get into the API and get to the data that we want. As I mentioned, we can export out our Dataverse transactions into Azure Functions, and we'll see an example of that in a short while. We can build out various different sort of client-side controls and scripts, and we've got support for TypeScript and JavaScript as part of that. So, any sort of maybe Node or React-based component, we can very quickly and easily bring into the Power Platform. We've got the tabular data endpoint, so for all of our SQL heads out there, including myself, I've got no shame in admitting that, we can very easily consume data from Dataverse and start to do some really nice things involving sort of direct query. Or, if we're .NET until we die, then by all means we can sort of use that. So at the moment we've got support for .NET Framework. We've got tooling or support for .NET Core, which is currently still in public preview, although there is obviously, as you'd probably expect, a huge focus on trying to sort of get that out into general availability. .NET Core, the main benefits of that is that we've got the cross-platform support and things like that. So over time, it will probably be that we drift more towards the .NET Core side of things. Okay, then, so let's do a demonstration then to show you some of the things that we can do with the Power Platform, particularly from a developer standpoint as well. So I'm just going to get my screen up like so. Okay, so on this screen here, then I'm in what we call the Maker portal in Power Apps, and this is pretty much our sort of go-to destination for whenever we're doing anything involving maybe Power Apps or Dataverse. So from in here, we can maybe go in and maybe create a new app. We can see or discover information about our particular Dataverse environment. So if I click on my tables down here, I can see a list of every single object that's in my particular Dataverse database. What's good about Dataverse is that we get a series of different tables included natively with every Dataverse environment. So for example, we've got tables for account to record the companies that we work with. We've got one for contact to record the individuals that we deal with. Lots of different tables that conform to the common data model, which is an initiative by Microsoft, SAP, and Adobe, all around standardizing the various business objects that we. Sorry.
You're not looking at your screen. Sorry, Joe.
So you can't see my screen.
I'm looking at the PowerPoint.
Oh, I can see the screen. You may need to maybe drop off and come back on the call again. I can see the demo screen. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Just try logging on back on if you're having trouble. Yeah. So basically, with the common data model, we've got these set of different sort of objects that we can consume natively, and the idea being here is that we don't need to go off and create the same objects each time. We know what to expect in each Dataverse environment, and as part of this, we've got all the various different sort of columns, relationships, and business rules, and various objects that are here for us. So as developers, we don't need to go off. We don't need to write a whole bunch of sort of create table statements and stuff like that. Typically, we can leverage what's in the Dataverse to be able to help speed us along our way. It's also very easy to start building an application based off Dataverse. So if I go back to the home screen at the top up here, if I click on Dataverse down here, we can very quickly and easily create a fully working application that's linked to our Dataverse environment. I just select the table that I want to connect to. So in this case, my contacts table. And what it's going to do is going to go off and read my underlying data source and then build me a fully functional application that allows me to perform create, read, update, and delete operations against my particular table. So we can see on here, it's been able to go in and detect the different attributes that exist in my table. I can see I've got all my different contacts down here. And this here is a fully working application. So if I was to hit the play button at the top up here, I can navigate through. I can maybe go onto this Sydney record over here. I can see some details about who this is. I can maybe edit some information on here. So maybe just do something like change this to joe@domain.com, hit the save button. And this will then be saved back into my underlying data source, and I can then work with it further from there. So literally within seconds, we've got a fully working application. It's possible that we may need to do some further work to enhance it out further, but what we've hopefully got here is something that's going to hold us in good stead for the long term. So really what we're trying to do with this is that we the low hanging fruits, we're trying to use the Power Platform to quickly build out this stuff. And then from there, we can then, as developers, start to focus on the more tricky requirements. So as an example, then, if we just go into the second tab up here, I've got another version of the application which I've just performed some minimal customizations to. In this case, we're looking at the Accounts app instead. So maybe, for example, we want to have it so that when any changes occur against our underlying data, we want to get notified via Microsoft Teams. Maybe it's an important customer client, or maybe it's something, a time sensitive or time critical type sort of thing that we need to perform. Potentially using the Power Platform and a little bit of sort of dev know-how, we can build a solution. So, for example, if I go into my Contoso Pharmaceuticals down here, if I click on Edit at the top, if we change the city over here, so maybe change it to Manchester, which is the nearest city to me, hit the Save button. What's now happening behind the scenes is that there's going to be some automation firing off. And what it's going to be doing is going to be calling a Power Automate flow, and then from there we should then be getting a notification through via Microsoft Teams to inform on the particular change. So hopefully, if this demo works, which it did earlier today, unless the demo gods hate me, we should see that we get a new message through here in a second that shows us some information about the account that's just been updated. Yep, so we can see after a few minutes, we get the details of the newly created account through. We get a notification through to indicate us, what's changed in the environment, and we can see there's a new attribute down there that we just edited and updated. So this is a very simple thing that we as developers can build out using the Power Platform. So I've not had to write any C# code to build this out. I've not had to do anything weird or wonderful or fancy. All we've done here is that we've got a Power Automate flow set up that's basically kicking off and orchestrating all of this behind the scenes. So if I go on to my Power Apps tab up here as an example, I can see the exact flow, cloud flow that's being used to sort of kick this off. So in this case, we send, or whenever whenever an account is modified in the system, we want to post out an adaptive card into a Teams channel. So adaptive cards, if you're not aware, it's this mechanism of being able to send out these interactive controls via things like email and Microsoft Teams. So you might have seen maybe sometimes some of the emails we get through from Microsoft, we've got the ability of being able to go in and maybe click some buttons or do some other actions. These will be using an adaptive card underneath the hood. So in this case, we've just got a very simple adaptive card. It's just going to be returning some data. I'm able to parameterize all the different attributes on here and then send this out using the flow bot as well. It could be that maybe I want to send this out to a Teams channel. I could send it out maybe via another user. I've got a few different options on here. But to do these sort of like these basic sort of notification workflow type stuff, it becomes very easy and straightforward to do. So this took probably less than 20 minutes, probably end to end, to build this out in the system. There's some pretty interesting stuff that we can do, with the native capabilities of the platform. So let's go a little bit deeper now then. So if we return back into the app over here, let's assume that maybe we've got a requirement that we want to actually do some sort of real-time translation of the data that we're working with. So maybe we are a multinational organization. We've got maybe individuals working across the globe. We want the ability to be able to do some translation of text as on demand effectively. So this type of capability that we've got on here is very well suited to Microsoft Azure and particularly cognitive services. We've got a series of different APIs that we can call there that can do a variety of things, everything from detecting sentiment in the text to doing sort of translations. So in this case, I could do something like, for example, so on my particular account record over here, I've got my description like so. I can press a button down there. And in a few moments, it's going to go off and it's going to translate this text over here into German for me. And that's been able to do that in a matter of seconds to be able to sort of just, dynamically translate text so that maybe our audience viewing the app can basically just get hopefully a fairly accurate translation. Maybe Peter in the chat can maybe comment on how accurate a translation this is or whether it's done a good job or not. But again, this capability on here has not been difficult to set up. All we've done is just provision some Azure services behind the scenes. And then, same as before, we've got a Power Automate flow that's basically calling out the particular endpoint for this service. In Cognitive Services, we just feed it through the text to translate. We can then respond back into the particular Power App with the translation that we perform. So because we've got this handy HTTP connector on here, we can potentially connect up to any API, any REST API. So what this unlocks for us is that if we've not got any native capability as part of our AI Builder solution down here, we know that Azure is more than capable of doing this sort of stuff. So let's spin up the relevant services in there and let's use what we got from Azure to meet our particular requirements as well. And again, this is not going to be too difficult. It's not going to be too challenging for us to set up. It should hopefully be a bit of a cakewalk. Now, the final thing I want to show you before we move on is how we can start to maybe do some sort of ProCode extensibility when it comes to when it comes to the Power Platform, and specifically how we can work with maybe .NET based solutions and also Azure Functions. So what we've got out in Azure at the moment is that we've got a function app that's been built out. It's just a HTTP trigger function. What we can do is that any transaction that we have that occurs in our Dataverse environment, we can look to post this out via a webhook into any endpoint, or maybe in this case to a function app. From there, we can then look to consume that. We can maybe do some transformation on it, or maybe just send it off to a different system. Really, it's really just up to us. With the joys and benefits of C#, the world is our oyster here. In this case, this particular function app, all we're doing is we're just going to be taking the request that we receive and we're just going to be writing out into the log. So if I just trigger this up now at the moment and just expand this up here, we can maybe give this a bit of a test over here. So for this particular function app, it will trigger whenever a new account is created within our particular Dataverse environment. And what we've done is we configured this via some of the extensibility tools within the Power Platform, in this case, the plugin registration tool. And all we've done on here is set up a webhook pointing to our particular function app and then define the action that will get posted out. So in this case, the create of a new account. So let's go in now and maybe just give this a test and see if it's all working. So I'm going to create a brand new account record. So I'm just trying to remember all my Microsoft companies. So maybe Wingtip Toys doesn't get enough love. So let's just do that. So this is going to be Wingtip Toys in Stoke-on-Trent. Give it a sample phone number, testing, hope it works, save that like so. And if we now return back into our function app, we should see in a few moments that we get a, well, if I had the logs opened and they were streaming, maybe it would work, but don't worry, we can maybe go into monitor instead and just see the run after a few seconds. So this is from earlier today. It can take a few minutes to come through. Rather than just sitting here waiting and twiddling our thumbs, if we have a look at one of the examples from earlier today, what we get as part of this is we get the entire JSON message object exposed out for us over here. So if you give me a moment, we'll just get this into maybe Notepad++ so that we can have a bit of a look at it. And obviously be able to view it clearly as well, because JSON can always be very fun when it comes to exploring this stuff. So let's open this up and let's give this a nice little format. Yeah, so we can see here we've got the entire underlying transaction that's been pushed out, and if we check down here we can see we've got all the different fields with their equivalent values as well. We can then maybe look to consume this as part of our different system. We can extend this out a bit further and do some nice things, such as maybe taking the values from before and after maybe a particular update operation and really start to go the extra mile as part of this. So typically from an extensibility standpoint, we'd look to bring functions into the equation where maybe we've got some more complex logic that we need to run. Maybe we need to have the ability to bring in maybe more custom libraries. Maybe we want to get around sandbox limitations from a Dataverse standpoint. There's a variety of different ways in which we'd maybe look to consume this. But ultimately, regardless of how we're wanting to maybe dip into the Power Platform, there's ways and means open to us, right through from maybe, as developers, doing some fancy things with our adaptive cards, right through to writing a wholly bespoke C# or maybe even a PowerShell or maybe even a Python-based application that does what we need it to. So lots of really good and interesting stuff on here. And this took me, the demos that you see here took me probably about 2 hours on Monday just to pull together, so we can start to get going. We can start to cook with gas, as they may say, very quickly when it comes to the Power Platform. All right. Okay, cool. So just a couple of things then just to wrap up on, and then we should have some time for some Q&A in a second. So really, when we're trying to talk to developers or try to sort of get them enthused about the Power Platform, typically we may see some resistance because it may just look like an attempt to sort of just, you're taking our jobs away from us. This stuff doesn't work. It's no good and stuff like that. These may be this type of blockers that we see when we're trying to evangelize about this. And what I would say to that is, well, actually, it frees our time up to actually do more useful and interesting things. We can maybe be a bit more faster when it comes to building out our business solutions. We can reduce our overall cost by building out and using a Power App as our main business application, and hopefully build that out maybe in weeks as opposed to months. These type of benefits start to become surface, and really what our developers can start focusing on is maybe the more interesting and more challenging aspects of our particular project. There's last mile integrations that are very difficult to do. And I don't know about you, maybe in my time as a developer, I don't want to necessarily be, day in, day out writing, the same, application, same plugin, day in, day out, same MVC app. Oh, I have to do this again. Oh, that's just boring stuff. As developers, I want to be doing cool stuff. I want to be doing things like going off into Azure. I want, consuming some AI machine learning stuff. I want to play around with Databricks. Ooh, Databricks, they sound interesting. What are they? We want to be really, catching the eye of our developers and, giving them the really nice, shiny stuff to play with. So when we start to bring the Power Platform into the equation, we can hopefully meet that objective. We can start to hopefully make them very sort of happy developers, build sort of happy code, or maybe, who knows. And hopefully as part of that, we can also leverage the knowledge that our developers have to support us around the type of things that we typically will see when it comes to our IT projects. So things like maybe DevOps, things like, deployment, using tooling and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that our developers can actually bring into the equation and actually benefit our citizen developers with if we deploy them in the right way. So I'd say there's a lot of things to potentially that we can say to encourage our developers to look at this very seriously. And certainly, in my time working with this platform in particular, the benefits of leveraging these tools compared to actually writing custom code and stuff like that, I can't really understate it enough. So obviously you've sat here now for about 15 minutes. You've heard this this random guy, banging on about Power Platform, saying how amazing it is. Well, it's not just me who's saying this. Objectively speaking, when you look at where Microsoft are placed at the moment, when it comes to low-code application platforms, they are consistently ahead. They are a leader in the category. They remain probably the main, or probably maybe the only provider that you should really consider using if you want this really nice end-to-end story to be looked at. You've seen some really great sort of statistics across the platform. Well over 3 million monthly active users across the different sort of services, and a lot of really big sort of and important sort of clients using this across the globe. Everything from sort of Toyota through to Pepsi, Heathrow Airport. Heathrow Airport is a particularly good example when you look at the story there of Samit Sani, who's another MVP. He started out as a security guard. He picked up Power Apps one day and delivered some really effective and quite sort of inspiring sort of transformation across the airport, and is now effectively leading their adoption of it. So his story is a really good example of what we can actually do with this platform if we put our minds to it. So ultimately, and to sort of close off before we jump to Q&A, although we've got a platform that is primarily aimed at citizen developer, this is a ProCode friendly platform. This is a platform that developers can very easily move into and very easily extend on top of it. And really, when we think about what developers can offer our projects, it's not just this technical know-how, it's also this experience, that they've been there, done that. We've typically been on many different projects. We know what works, we know what we need to do, to build a solution to best practice approaches and to make it successful in the long term. So when we bring our developers into the equation with the Power Platform, we can benefit from their experience. They can help to guide our citizen developers, our functional consultants on what they need to do and what are the right things to do. As I mentioned, really, we can start to get our developers focused on the more interesting stuff, the stuff that's going to, get the sort of cogs turning in the brain, rather than the same old boring stuff that we end up doing day in, day out. As I'll hopefully be able to demonstrate today, we've got a variety of different routes that we can go down to extend out the Power Platform. So it's not just using our sort of ProCode tools. We can use the native capabilities of the platform, add a bit of a sort of a developer sort of codey sort of element to them, and then from there we can then extend out our solution. And whether we are a one-stop Microsoft shop for everything that we need, or if we do go slightly further afield, then we're going to be hopefully satisfied that our technical investments are not going to be sort of abandoned and that we can get the most benefit out of them. Hey, so yeah, that wraps it up. So if anyone's got any questions, then be more than happy to answer them. So yeah, feel free to unmute or let me know, Chirag, if we had any in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. No, listen, big thanks. That was a great session. I think, to pull all those information assets together and, be able to then demonstrate all the nuggets of demo. Pretty cool. Loved it. Thanks for that. Yeah, I think there were some comments, I think some odd questions, but I think I can go through those comments or you can, and maybe give some time to the attendees to even ask questions. So, feel free to turn your camera on, unmute, and, fire away, ask the question. So
yeah, I'm just looking through the chat now. I can see 2 questions from Fernando. So the Azure procedure costs money, correct? Is it irrelevant? So yeah, anything that we consume in Azure in terms of resources, so things like the functions and cognitive services, there is a cost as part of that. So you do need to factor that in. Wouldn't say it's irrelevant. For certain scenarios, it will probably be quite optimal to do so. And certainly, yeah, when it comes to the PL600 exam that you mentioned, that is the solution architect exam for the Power Platform. You need to have a really good awareness of all of this stuff that we do, because as a solution architect, we typically need to advise on the best solution to sort of adopt, and a solution architect is not solely focused on the Power Platform. We need to know about extensibility into Azure. We need to know about extensibility into Microsoft 365. How can we bring in, Exchange Online and Microsoft Teams into the equation? So I would say that, yeah, definitely knowing about this stuff will be useful for that particular exam.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Another question from Fernando. Yeah, so what's your take on the dichotomy of Power Apps versus model-driven apps? Yeah, so we have got this different experience at the moment where we've got our Canvas and our model-driven apps. The big focus will be convergence in the long term around those different sort of experiences, and ideally, it'll be a sort of one-size-fits-all type stuff. So over time, that experience should improve. And we should see everything being joined together a lot more nicely. Yeah, good comment from Marcus there. Database SharePoint is free. Yeah, Dataverse not really. Yeah, I can't argue against that. And certainly making that argument in the business can be quite challenging sometimes. What I would say is that Dataverse, it gives you additional assurance around things like security, access of your data, being able to encrypt data at rest and at the column level, various other benefits that if you're trying to mature your organization will be a lot better. So you could probably argue that, yes, there's a cost against it, but certainly it's a cost worth paying depending on the type of data you're trying to store and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to add a quick comment there, I mean, coming from a SQL background myself, when applying rules of normalizations, first, second, third normalization forms, you can easily do that with Dataverse, right? Compared to SharePoint lists. So sometimes you can hit that limitations. But I think there's another question coming up there as well. So what's the future of Power Platform as a developer is considered?
I think if I'm understanding the question correctly, yeah. So in terms of the as a Power Platform developer, I would say the future's bright. It's not orange, it's that purple that you saw earlier. So yeah, certainly there's a lot that developers can contribute to the Power Platform. We're not just talking about our technical know-how, we're talking about the experience, what makes a good IT solution, what can we do across our projects, a lot of things that developers can contribute to. As I say, it's about freeing up our time to deal with those those niche requirements, those last mile requirements as part of our projects, so that we can focus on the important things, so we can be a bit more agile as well.
Okay, right. I think we have it, right?
I think so, yeah.
Well, great stuff. I mean, I think that this can probably go on. I'm sure you would love to do another session.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But no, listen, I think, big thanks to you and giving up your time, Joe, and being here with M365 UK, and, lots of good comments and a very informative session. So I'm sure, if you come back in a few months or even next year, this whole session could probably be rewritten, right?
That's the beauty of working in the cloud. It changes every day.
Good stuff. Okay, so for attendees, I've posted the link with feedback. So I think it'll be really useful if Joe can get some feedback around that, because it'll really help him out, as well as understand if he can improve in some areas of the presentation. So please, in a couple of questions, no more than that. So feel free to fill that out. So that will be great. And then, as you can see, Christian's here now. So, we'll take a 10 minutes odd break. So welcome back. And so we had the first session today with Joe Griffin, a great session on Power Platform and all the ins and outs around it for the developers. So plenty of stuff going on in that space. And so, as you know, we got Christian Buckley with us here today. So for me, it's an honor, because I've been following Christian for many years now. In fact, he was probably one of the few at the time, including Joel Ollison as well at the time, when I started to follow Twitter at that point in 2007 thereabouts. So learned a lot, great stuff over there. 10-time MVP. Christian is there, and he'll probably introduce, I'm sure, all great things he's done in and outside of Microsoft. And so looking forward to this session, more importantly for us as end users, as well as power users, in terms of the productivity tips that we can learn from within Microsoft Teams and related technologies. So with that, Christian, it's over to you. Take it away.
Yeah, if you can unlock the sharing, I can share my screen.
Yeah, absolutely. So is it because you're not a presenter? Let me guess.
I think so.
Right. You know what? That's exactly it.
You'll have to promote me.
Go for it. All yours.
I'm assuming with that promotion, it comes with a pay rise.
You'll get more time. You get more free time.
It's the running joke everybody loves. Yeah. Hang on. Let me adjust my screens here. Make sure I can still see chat there. All right. So we'll jump in. I just want to point out before we get started here. So I'm based in just south of Salt Lake City, Utah here. I went the extra mile there, and I did the UK spelling of the word favorite. So right there, I've delivered. But just a little bit about me for those that don't know me. So I have been in the community for a long time. I joined Microsoft in 2006. I actually shared an office with Joel there for 6 months before he moved over to the product team, to the SharePoint team. But I've been in the space for a long time. I left Microsoft in 2009. So I joined to help create what is Office 365. I left and went to a SharePoint migration ISV and have been in the ecosystem ever since. My first MVP earned it in January of 2012. So 10 years now. but there's my contact information, some of the things that I do. So every Monday, in fact, it just happened to coincide with this, that Chirag was the guest for this week's MVP Buzz Chat, so my MVP interview series. So that went live on Monday. I also do a podcast every Friday where it's broader collaboration with the lowercase c. So it's not about technology. I talk about culture. I talk about the technology as well, but different ideas, AI and team culture, team building, and all that kind of stuff. Everything around collaboration. I also do a channel related for anybody that's in this space as a partner, a consulting partner, or an MSP, things like that. New series called P2P Now. I also do monthly tweet jams. In fact, we just had it yesterday. It was our 10th anniversary. So I launched that in January of 2012 as well. So we tackle different topics and via Twitter. I do twice a month, I do deep dives with MVPs, regional directors, other experts as part of the Office 365 hours. And then some of you may have seen, we started it during the early stage of the pandemic. We started doing what was a weekly panel of experts, just doing an AMA style, answering questions to the community. We did that for 61 weeks. Then we moved to monthly. Now we are we shoot videos, so they're out on my my YouTube channel. But just a lot of answering community questions. Now, so I do have a hard stop at the top of the hour for the next meeting. So there's a lot to go through. I'll just say at the beginning of this process, a couple things. So I've been doing productivity tips for years. My co-conspirator is a gentleman named Tom Duff, who I always like to point out that my second book that I wrote, which was for Rational Clear Case, was a Clear Case. No, the third book, Clear Quest. So IBM bought Rational and IBM products, but Tom Duff, you used to be in the IBM sphere, actually did a review, a positive review, thankfully, of my third book. And so via Amazon, we had been connected for years. But Tom and I do productivity tips. We've been doing it for years. So his name appears on some of these. We've got a couple series we're planning to do more this year. So if you love this kind of content, as Tom and I do, and I'm going to go through 20 in very fast pace. What I'll say is the end of this, there is a link to all of these. They're already out and available on the web, as well as another 20 on top of that. So there's 40 tips that are available that you can get, and the link will be at the end of this. So let's jump in. Oh, one last thing to preface this. We go through productivity tips. I expect that all of you will be familiar with a number of these. The goal with this is always that I'm sure there will be one or two or more that you've never seen before, and that could be life-changing for your daily productivity or team productivity. So that's kind of the goal, is to go through and share these things, and I'm constantly adding to these because you never know when one of these can just really benefit you personally or to your team. So let's get started. So the first tip here, so a quick view of all of your teams. Hopefully everybody is familiar with this one, but it's really easy to lose track of, what are all the teams that I'm a member of. Obviously, you have the list on the left side, but if you're using teams like me, I'm constantly massaging that list of what I have pinned, of what I have visible, where I'm hiding those things in there. So I'm constantly cleaning up that nav. So that's something, and there are third-party tools that are out there to help with the navigation of that, but you have the ability from the Teams tab in the left nav, you can go down and of course see all your pinned, all your current, but you can, click into the Manage Teams page down on the wheel at the bottom and see everything that you're a member of, to see if there's things that you had hidden and forgotten about, not seen any updates, and you want to repin that or make that visible. So remember that you can, if you're like, I'm a member of dozens and dozens of teams, most of which, if I get an alert or if I'm CC'd on something, I'll see that. but I don't need to see it every day and clog up my navigation. So I've hidden them from my view, but that's how you can get and see all of those other teams. Second is the accessing the history menu. And we're probably all familiar with the ability to go up from the, use the buttons side to side to kind of navigate what was I just working on, who was I just talking to, and clicking back a number of times to find that conversation. Well, if you just hover over the left arrow, the back arrow, you'll see the last 10 interactions that you had. So that's just you may have inadvertently come across this menu by just lingering too long, floating the mouse up over the arrows up there and seen this. Other people are unaware that this feature was out there. Microsoft is trying to, this is one of the reasons why we have cloud-based solutions that allow for these kind of AI-driven tooling. See right there, Joe, never seen it. Yeah. So it's, that's the point of this. I'm trying to change people's lives here, sending urgent messages. This is one of those things where there's a joke. It may not land well for those that aren't familiar with the US version of The Office, and don't get into the politics of whether the UK version of The Office versus the US. They're just different. But there's a joke that Michael Scott, the boss, makes about urgency. He says, though there's urgent 1, urgent 2, urgent 3. Urgent 1, you don't even need to pay attention to. Urgent 2 is like, maybe it's interesting, but urgent 3, that's the important one. So if you mark everything urgent, what happens is nothing becomes urgent. So yeah, we do. No, I agree. I agree that the UK version is the better version of that. But as far as volume of funny, the US wins. Sorry, it's just because there's more episodes. It's just different. But going in and marking things as urgent so that it does appear. So you have that tool in your utility belt to go out there. And if you really need this to pop up and to be front and center to people with that red banner, like, hey, take a look at this message, within that team, within that channel, you have that ability to go and do that, especially if you're mentioning people there. Yeah, there are shortcuts for these things too. And I think in this version, I know in the link that I have to the 40, I have a link to, if it's not in this presentation, to the, I've got a number of versions of this deck. That's why I don't know if it's in this version, but to all of the shortcuts. So it may pop up here, but if it's in the list of 40 that I'll share at the end. Connecting to your cloud storage. So this is another one of those things which has been there since day one, but there are two ways that you can link. If you're using Box or Dropbox or Ignite or even other OneDrive or other SharePoint environments that aren't part of the default setup for your team, you have the ability, two ways of adding those. So one, you can have a tab where you can have that other storage location, or two, within the files themselves, you can add the storage location. What I tend to do, if I have a project where there are a lot of other external assets or even external guests where we're collaborating across a number of different environments, I'll make sure that everywhere that our team that has access to that team, so the project team, have access to that workspace. I hate referring to teams, so teams workspaces. I make sure that it's both in the tabs as well as down in the files so that people know, hey, I can access all the content that's relevant to me. So adding a cloud storage in both locations just makes it that much easier for people to find the right content. As well as if in your provisioning environment, as part of your provisioning setup, for example, maybe you have centralized project management documentation templates or other resources that you want to make available to every new team that's created, you can actually automate the creation of these cloud storage locations or additional SharePoint or OneDrive environments, both in the tab as well as the files, and just make that part of the default provisioning setup. Let's see. Well, I'm not going to try and read all the questions here. I may come back, but yeah, in fact, that's something, Chirag, if there are any questions that you need me to answer, I'm going to go through these, try to
Yeah,
go through these
absolutely.
pretty quickly.
Sure.
Just let me know.
Sure.
Using the slash and keyboard commands. There we go. This version of this deck has those shortcuts that we mentioned about. There's two flavors of shortcuts. So one, there are the slashies, and then there are the keyboards. So you have the ability to go in there and type the /, and then you'll get a list of options. So so being able to go in there and like your status changes and things. But then you also have the ability to go in and see those keyboard shortcuts for people that are, we all have our favorites, the things that we're constantly going and doing. And this is the thing where I often just forget, like, how did I do that? I was doing that on a regular basis. So things, if you're presenting a lot, doing the zoom in, zoom out, for example, those are good keyboard shortcuts to have memorized. So there you go. There you have the additional Inspector Gadget Extenda capability. I'm dating myself. Those are the 80s cartoons, people that aren't aware of that. So refining your search results. So this is something which search within Teams has been a point of contention for a lot of people for a long time. So being able to go in, and they've modified, they've improved things. I think that there's still work to do. But as you start to do your search, you type in your search terms up in the command bar. You can then narrow the search. So as the results come back, you get like the type, you get the, of course I can't see my own screen here, the teams and channels, the from, date, those that @mention you. So there's ways that you can filter your view down. But are you looking for people? Are you looking for specific files, or just within the messages? Do you want to see across all of those things? So it's an improvement. I think there's still room for improvement. Honestly, search is a sore topic. I think all of you know, because can anybody tell me how many search locations does Microsoft provide us through Microsoft 365? Any guesses?
Over 25.
No, it's not that extensive. Yeah, it's too many, as Nikki says. It's like 7. I think there's 7 different locations, 7 different experiences for search. It's just too many. And if the majority of people are accessing within Teams, I've started using office.com as my default as I boot up a browser. I've got it both within my Edge as well as in Google, my Chrome browsers. It goes to that, and using that as a search because that has LinkedIn integration as well as all of my internal, all of my Office 365, as well as my desktop. Like, I'm using that more and more. I want that in Teams. I live in Teams, so why can't I have that integrated search experience within Teams? But it's not there today. Marking messages as unread. So this is one of those things where I'm constantly using this, because if you don't do this, like, I'll go in and I'll read through things and think, oh, I'll need to go take action on those, and then walk away from my desk, come back, and there's 20 new messages there. What was I working on? What did I just read where I had an action there? And so I have this habit now. I do it within email. I do it within Teams, where I'll read a message. I'll see, oh, there's some things that I need to do there. I'll then mark that as unread so that, yes, I can save the message. If you forget, that's bookmarking. You can save that. What I found with the way that I work, if I save messages, if I save chats, I forgot that I saved them. I never go look at my bookmarks to see those. But when I mark them as unread, again, it's just a style difference. Yeah, I agree. Creating tasks. I'm all about tasks. I have multiple sticky notes, and I have to-do open on my desktop. Like, I'm a project portfolio management guy. That's my background. And so, like, I'm all about tasks. There's a process for moving the handwritten into to-do, into the different things. But one of the things that I do, just my process, is I mark things as unread, so that I go back through the unread and then I capture those and move those tasks elsewhere. So it's just one of those things to be aware with that is out there for the people that do that in email. You can also do that in Teams. Using the meeting reactions, and this is something that Microsoft has been pushing. They added this capability. It's something there's been a lot of questions around. It's great. I want to be able to, as the creator of this meeting, I'd like to go back over the recording and look at some stats around that. Microsoft has that feedback. Like, I'd like to know how many times that we saw the thumbs up. I don't know if anybody was watching with last fall with Ignite, but when I won't talk about, when the metaverse announcements were made, and if anybody was watching, you probably were aware of how the volume of thumbs down of unhappy faces around that capability. So I won't get into the political discussion of metaverse and how much is real, how much we're going to adopt and do, in the next 2 years versus the next 20 years. I won't get into all of that. I'm more on the 20 years side of the argument. But anyway, being able to today to go in and have this different ways of interacting and then being able to get actually stats back on that, it's an important part of the interaction, especially I do believe that I don't know about the new normal. I hate that phrasing, but there will be much more hybrid events, and we'll just continue to do a lot of the online. So having more tools to have different depths of interaction is important. So I'll leave it at that. Leveraging the immersive reader. And this is something where I don't use it a lot, but when I've wanted it and used it, like I've used immersive reader on my mobile device when I'm out driving to read through my emails or read through content. It's fantastic. And yes, the voice that does the reading has a British accent. I just prefer it. It also lulls me to sleep, so I have to be careful when I'm driving. I'm joking, of course, but no, having the ability to go in and read through and set the speed for this. Sometimes if you're multitasking, and some people absolutely love this feature. I prefer to read things, but when I'm trying to do something hands-free, it's great. Like, oh yeah, I have this capability. Let me get through this longer content. 10th one, copying a team to build a team. So depending on how your organization does provisioning, like internally at AvePoint, so we use MyHub, we have a provisioning process. I mean, it's like almost instant for the majority of Teams related things, but we have tighter controls when there's like external guests that are a member of that. But if you're using the default, setup of that, a lot of times we've spent all this time building out a team that just functions well for us. And so the ability to go and build something from scratch, or, hey, let me go copy the structure of that other existing team. I really like that I'm a member of. I don't own that one, but I'd like to utilize that same setup, those same components. You still have to go in and wire things within that, but to be able to leverage that, get things started very quickly is incredibly powerful. So it saves a lot of time, a lot of effort. Creating custom invites. This is one of those personalization things. Maybe you don't care about this, but when I'm inviting people in, we're big on, like kind of managing the brand, the company brand. So especially as I'm inviting internal or external people to meetings, I want to make sure that it's a branded experience. If there's other guidance, if there's other disclaimers that we want to include in the invites, something as simple as this, just adding my company logo. So when you're getting an email invite to a meeting with me, hey, this is an AvePoint related, it's a company related invitation to this discussion. I think that is important for us to go and do, especially with the fact that you're likely a member of multiple tenants that are out there. And so this is a differentiator. I make sure that I have my personal tenant as an MVP and my prior company, so Collab Talk, which is now all community stuff now. But when I invite people to a Collab Talk, a community related thing, it has the Collab Talk logo and there's wording in there that, hey, this is a community related neutral space, versus when I send it from AppPoint, like this is business, it's professional, it's focused on things that are relevant to our company interaction. So that's an important distinction for me to go and make. You have the ability to go in and do that setup as the admin to make sure that everyone within your company has this professional face on with those invitations. So automating routine tasks within Power Automate. And this is one of those areas we just, talked about, what is the kind of the future of this. I mean, Microsoft has tried to make it so easy to go in with some of the Teams and SharePoint activities, those common tasks, to also go in there and provide a Power Automate integration, so that it really is as simple as going in there, add the Power Automate to the left nav, and go in and create a flow based on the teams, the channels that you're a member of, the data that you have access to right there, and automate and streamline the automation of some of those capabilities. So that if you are new to Power Automate, and I'm not a big Power Platform user, my role is just different. The stuff that I do now in community, it's a very different. My role, I own the global Microsoft Alliance. I also own the global alliance with Google and with Salesforce for my company. So I'm working across multiple clouds. So it's just become very different. But where I've gone in for the teams that I own and create, I've created some very simple automations just to get other notifications, to get visibility of some activities across different platforms. And so that's why I've leveraged Power Automate. Microsoft has just made it very easy now to go, even if you don't have formal training on that, to go and get started and do some very simple automations within your current environments. So it's just as simple as click create and run through the forms. Using the live transcription. So here's something that it's evolved, it's changed a little bit around this. I am a big believer in, so this is kind of my background with knowledge management and collaboration platforms, and coming from the SharePoint side of things, is that I believe that if I work for my company, everything that I'm doing within my company's tenant, every meeting, every chat that I'm having is an information asset that my company owns. I understand that there are the privacy thing, all those kinds of things. Yeah, I understand all those things as well. But when I am logged into a company laptop, into a company tenant, and in company related meetings and conversations, all of those information assets belong to my company. Now, that's just how I approach this topic. I believe, now you understand that by default, every meeting should be recorded, because every meeting that we're having is an information asset that should be captured, that should be stored, that should be searchable instantly, kind of all those things. Again, you may have a different approach, different philosophy, how you look at it, great. And it's an optional thing that's out there. I just believe that it should be by default a mandatory thing. But you have the ability to go in there and turn that capability on for your organization and have the live transcription happen as you're recording that, or following that is the storage. This is part of the stream capability, to be able to go and generate a transcript from that. Essentially what this feature does, this allows you to go and create that transcript in real time and do that live transcription. And the benefit to this, when this is turned on, this is especially important when, not that anybody ever does that, but when multitasking, when you're double or triple booked, to be able to go on and turn on that live, have the live transcription, to be able to watch what's happening and read while you're listening into something, participating, nodding occasionally to the other meeting, but then following along what's happening. Again, not that I'm advising that people go and multitask, because multitasking is a lie. Your brain can do one. There's maybe a dozen people in the world who can split their eyes, watch two things. They can also draw with their toes and have separate pictures with their hands and their toes. Those are not the average human being. I'm going. See, that's why I love Ricky Gervais so much. So I think he would understand the way that my brain works and go sideways with this. But yeah, having the live transcripts there so that people can follow along, especially if there are people that have those confusing, thick Western U.S. accents, and we talk really fast and slur certain words together. Wasn't until college that being from the San Francisco Bay Area that went away out of state to university, and a girl came up and she's like, "You're from the Bay Area?" It's like, "Yeah." She's like, "I could tell by your accent." I'm like, "What accent?" Well, she's like, "Yeah, you talk really fast. You slur certain letters, certain words together. So there's certain laziness to your speech patterns." I'm like, "Thank you." So for people like me that jumble words together, that speak in acronyms, having the live transcripts there helps you cut through a lot of that. Yeah. Fernando, yeah, I'll say that my a big portion of my family, my maternal grandfather is from Scotland. I've done a number of trips up to family areas in Edinburgh and Glasgow, and I watched some TV up from that part of the world. I got nothing out of some of those shows. I didn't understand a word. Let's see, making your conversations more searchable. So this is something that there's a number of healthy habits there to make sure your content is more searchable. So setting up, of course, you could be part of all these channels. Think about, that taxonomy and folksonomy. So, what are the keywords, the project names, being more formal around that. I think so much of the world has gotten accustomed to using hashtags, like in the way we go write an email. I generally, even if before the capability was there in Outlook to @mention somebody and automatically CC them, I started using @mentions just as a way of highlighting people, so to draw attention to the eye line of reading through the email. Similarly with hashtags, just started using hashtags as a way to emphasize that if you use @mentions, obviously the person gets notified within that conversation. Hashtags, though, are another way that I can then go in and I can filter my view. So if I have a unique project name, distribution list is another way. So you could go and create, like I @mention a person, but like I run the AvePoint Community Champions program. I have an @Community Champions all, so that it's a distribution list so that everybody gets that notification. So instead of @mentioning an individual, I can @mention a group of people, a distribution list as well. That's another way to make your search, improve the search of the chats, of the conversations. But using @mentions, using distribution lists, and using hashtags are ways that you can go and do that to make that content more searchable. So I just try to standardize with projects that I work on, and I'll use common folksonomy, common terminology, and use hashtags just so that it makes it more searchable and findable. Treating meetings as documents. This goes back to my philosophy of record every meeting. This is more of a cultural way of looking at meetings. I've been, for those that may know some of my profile, my background, I was one of the early voices. I've been involved in social technology since the 90s. I had my own startup. We built our own instant messaging protocol. We integrated with a number of companies I've worked for, where we've integrated with WebEx and GoToWebinar and other tools that are out there. for a long time. I was a huge advocate for more social capabilities within SharePoint. And so was speaking on that at events 10, 12 years ago. And one of the things is that why I'm such an advocate for social is because when you are document centric, then so much of the context of that document is lost in the discussions that are happening via email, via messenger, via other tools, in the room conversations, meetings that we schedule that are relevant to the content that we're storing. So we go back a year later, we've got the documents, but we lose all of the rest of the context around that. So that's why I say meetings are documents, because it's the contextual information that's captured around the files that we store. Capture the discussion, capture the interactions, being able to have transcript for all of that so that it's instantly searchable. It's part of the knowledge base for your company. So it's more of a strategy for your intellectual property management within your organization. It's a knowledge management strategy. Using the Yammer Q&A. So I'm a huge advocate for Yammer. Again, I'm just as I got done talking about the social capabilities. My company, we have SharePoint as our portal. Teams is our day-to-day. That's our, where work gets done. That's how we collaborate with each other. But then we have the social aspect of that, which is Yammer. And so much of Yammer has become the knowledge base for things. And of course, we have our unified search experiences, so I can go and find things across those three environments, as well as all my local content there. But the Q&A module is just another way that you can go and formalize some of that process. So you have I think it's out of public preview now, but you have the ability to go and add that into the teams so that people can then go ask questions. You can vote things up and down, and then can capture that and expand on that, make them like knowledge-based articles to store within your system. So it's just another way that you can engage with your employees. I'm actually doing better on time than I thought here. Leveraging the Loop components. Brand new thing. See, I don't even have a nice clean logo for Loop. I'm still waiting for that. That's Peter. That's a great comment. I'm just back on the Yammer. I highly recommend, if you are using Yammer in your organization, to add Yammer to the left nav within Teams. I've had conversations with the product team around this, but some people don't know this, that Yammer is back on the rise. It's growing faster than Planner and other tools. It has been for quite a while in the last year. It has become, again, one of the fastest growing areas within the Microsoft 365 platform. And one of the reasons I believe that happened is because they finally delivered the integrations with Outlook and specifically with Teams. So I'll get emails now because we're still do a lot within email. But most of the things that happen in email now are usually links back to Yammer or over to Teams. So being able to see where I'm working in email within, not so much in Yammer environment to the others, but if I'm working in Teams or I'm working in email and it links back to a knowledge base or a community discussion or something that's happening out on Yammer, I'll get the links, I'll jump over to that, or I'll go and I'll access Yammer to the community pages via that left nav within Teams. Click on the Yammer icon, open up that relevant discussions there. So that tighter integration of Teams and Yammer, I believe, is what has been driving that growth for Yammer. Let's see. So Loop component. So I'm excited about Loop. For those that remember, a few years back, it was Julia White, who's now over at SAP, by the way, for those that didn't know that. But Julia White gave a demo of a solution called Gig Jam. On the stage, it was the partner conference. It was in July of 2015 or 2016. She was doing up there on stage with Satya and gave this awesome demo where in that demo, and this was a pure Microsoft R&D project. It was never a formal product, but the concepts that she demonstrated there where they were collaborating together and working on something, where they wanted to go and pull some specific information out of their ERP environment, pull outside people in to discuss that data point, update that in real time so everybody could see it from their different views. And then, that other person left the meeting, they removed their permissions, instantly around that, that data point. But in real time, people had different views of the same information from different places. Somebody was working within Teams, somebody was in SharePoint, somebody was accessing it via Outlook, but all were seeing the same thing. That's become like the fluid components, the fluid framework has become Loop. And so I'm a huge advocate for the potential of Loop. And there's ways that your organization can actually go, if you don't yet have this deployed, your admins can add this and make the Loop components available within Teams. So you can go in there and drop in a table, a list, these shareable components, and attach it via an email. And so somebody opens up, if they're in the cloud version of email, like who's not using a cloud version of email if you're not logged in somewhere, but you'll actually be able to make edits in that email of this list, as well as me working within Teams, and we'll see each other's co-edits that are happening in real time. And so we'll have truly one version of the truth there. So it's very exciting to see Loop. A fellow MVP, Daryl Webster, based in Auckland, New Zealand, is really kind of specializing a lot of his content out there around Loop, so that if you're interested in looking what is the latest with Loop, what can I do to get started, go check out Daryl's efforts. He's also part of the Regarding 365 group. I'm part of the extended troop of Regarding 365, but he's one of the leaders of that. But definitely go check out his profile and a lot of that great content. There's just tons that's happening there. And if you've not yet seen it, so you can go in there, like add this table in there. You can see the people that are in there co-editing there in real time. There's different ways that you can engage or vote on those responses. So it's a great way to do especially for a larger group of people, real-time voting, real-time updates, and collaboration on something. You don't need to go and create a separate shareable Word doc or Excel table or something out there and then send it out and get co-editing and go into that environment. You can do everything right from within Teams. So look for more of that capability. There's just a lot of potential that's going to happen there. One thing that this is something I mentioned, a third-party solution. This is out there. The only reason I add in there's an app point tool because it's free, but it's a great way to get further organized. One of the day one with Teams, one of the biggest complaints was how fast it was growing and how convoluted, how messy the navigation was getting. How do I find the things that I'm interested in finding? So what MyHub provides, you can pin it to your left rail, so you can go and download it. It's the #2 most downloaded Teams app in the Microsoft Store. So go check it out. But it allows you to go in there. It sees all of your teams, all of your SharePoint sites, all of the Office 365 groups that you have access to. You can then go in there and create personalized views of all of those things. For example, if you're part of a Project XYZ, and Project XYZ might have multiple teams, multiple other SharePoint environments, groups that you're a member of, you can create a view. It's like a bookmark of, or a folder of all of your Project XYZ, assets, environments. And so that when you go into MyHub, click on Project XYZ, you'll then see just all of the assets that are part of that. So it's a way that you can cut through the clutter and organize your environment. Of course, it has other capabilities as well, but that is the fundamental feature set of MyHub, is cleaning up and organizing your navigation within Teams. Really slick, free is a good price. Syncing with the Message Center updates. I am a huge advocate, if you are not yet doing this inside of your organization, because another one of the most common questions that I hear within the asked to the MVPs, and this is why one of the reasons why I do the AMAs, the Ask Me Anything panel, you know, live streams and events and things around that. People say, well, how do you keep up? How do you stay informed? Like, what do you follow and do? This is one of the things to go out there and do, is you have to enable it on the admin side, but essentially there's a link that's out there to point all message center updates to your tenant to a planner board. And there's a couple different formatting things that you can do to it, but essentially you can see, this is like my view of this. We have untriaged, so everything comes into that column. Multiple people then can go into this team, into Planner, and say, hey, here's the stuff that we've reviewed, definite impact. And we need to bring other people in. There's tasks that are going to be created based on this change, this to our tenant. Other things, we've reviewed it. We're not sure if there's an impact. And then there's another column of, we know that there is zero impact, and just move it over there. We've read it and drag it and drop it over there. So this is a fantastic way that you can go in there and look at this on a daily or weekly basis, just to make sure that you're keeping up on everything that's happening within your tenant and you are aware of all the changes that are happening. The last one is utilizing the Microsoft Teams adoption site. If you do not have this bookmarked, go out there and do it today. Just adoption.microsoft.com. This is something that was launched with the launch of Teams and is constantly being expanded. There are so many resources out there, no matter where you are, new to Teams or seasoned, you've been in the environment for a long time. It's all good. Go check it out. Subscribe to that. There's the last one. And then here, this is my last screen here. If you want to get access to all 20 of these plus 20 more, there's the URL to it. You can find it all. It's all available out there today. Thank you.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, Christian. That's a really good session. And as ever, I know you've done this before, but always entertaining and obviously a few things to learn. So yeah, there's a few things I picked up as well. So that's good difference. So thanks for that. I know you got to shoot off, so I won't keep you much longer because I know you had to step off 6 here at the hard time. But yeah, just want to say, big thanks to you and Joe Griffin earlier on. For those of you, the attendees, I've put the links to the feedback and also the link for the next month's meetup as well. So hopefully you can join us then. But in the meantime, please, fire off the questions. And I think Christian has still got access to the chat, so he can try and get back. But otherwise, I think with that, just want to say thanks to everyone, and good to hear from everyone as well. And back on this online user groups again. So yeah, great stuff. And take care, Christian, and hopefully we might bump into some conference later this year.
I sure hope so. So thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers. Thanks.
Bye.